There is a silent truth that governs all human interaction. Respect is never gifted, it is earned through the demonstration of inner power. In a world that rewards achievement and punishes weakness, you must understand that kindness alone does not command respect. It may invite appreciation, but seldom admiration. Power, however, when aligned with vision, purpose, and discipline, ignites respect even in silence. Let us be clear, power does not mean domination. It means clarity of mission. It means the ability to say no when needed, to walk away when standards are not met, and to hold yourself to principles that cannot be shaken by emotion or temporary approval. A man who leads himself commands respect from others, especially from women. For women are biologically wired to respond to leadership energy, to the certainty of a man who knows where he's going. They do not chase kindness. They gravitate towards certainty. They may appreciate the warmth of kindness, but they follow the light of purpose. A kind man who abandons his mission for approval becomes invisible over time. But a powerful man who carries his values, his goals, and his emotional control, he becomes magnetic. This is not about manipulation, it's about evolution. The masculine energy thrives on growth. The feminine respects protection, direction, and strength, not just physical, but spiritual and mental. So if you seek admiration, become admirable. If you seek respect, build power within. Be the man who speaks less, but whose actions roar with purpose. Be kind, yes, but let your kindness be your choice, not your identity. Because in the end, those who build themselves in silence, who master their time, their thoughts, and their vision, they do not beg for respect. They attract it. Respect is earned through strength, not sympathy. This truth applies universally, but nowhere is it more misunderstood than in the dynamics between men and women. From a young age, we're taught to be kind, to be agreeable, to be generous, and to prioritize the needs of others over our own. While these are beautiful qualities in the right context, they can easily be misunderstood as weakness when not backed by personal strength. It's not that kindness is wrong, it's that kindness alone is not enough. The world does not automatically reward the kind-hearted. It rewards those who stand firm in who they are and what they believe, regardless of whether others approve. When a man leads with kindness, but lacks direction, discipline, or self-respect, his kindness becomes invisible. It becomes expected. It loses its value. And when that happens, people, especially women, stop appreciating it. They begin to question the man behind the smile. Why does he seek approval? Why is he so eager to please? What is he afraid of losing? Whether consciously or subconsciously, people begin to interpret unchecked kindness as a plea for validation, not a confident choice. That is where respect begins to erode. True strength is not loud or aggressive. It doesn't need to boast or dominate. True strength is quiet, grounded, and unwavering. It's the discipline to say no when you want to say yes just to avoid discomfort. It's the clarity to walk away from what doesn't serve your purpose, even when it's tempting. It's the power to maintain your emotional balance when others lose theirs. This type of strength commands respect, not through fear, but through presence. When you become the kind of man who doesn't need to be liked, you begin to be respected. And that respect is what draws admiration and loyalty. Kindness is most powerful when it is a conscious decision made from a place of strength. When a man has the power to be cruel or indifferent, but chooses kindness, that kindness is depth. It's not born of fear or desperation. It's born of character. That's the kind of kindness that inspires others, the kind that touches people and leaves an impression. But when kindness is used as a tool to gain approval, it loses its soul. It becomes manipulation disguised as virtue. And deep down, people, especially women, can sense the difference. You must learn to be strong first and kind second, not the other way around. Strength gives your kindness value. Without it, your kindness is just noise. That's why the men who are respected are not always the nicest. They are the most grounded, the most disciplined, the most focused. They don't sway with every emotion. They stand firm. And when they choose to be kind, it carries weight. It means something. To be respected, you must first respect yourself. And self-respect begins with setting standards. Standards for how you are treated, how you use your time, and how you express your energy. If you constantly bend to please others, you are showing that your standards are negotiable. And if you don't hold your own line, no one else will either. So remember, the world may pity the weak, but it follows the strong. Women may thank the kind, but they trust the powerful. And power, in its purest form, is self-control, purpose, and integrity. When your strength is real, your kindness becomes a gift, not a strategy. That is the path to real respect. Power reflects purpose and control. When we talk about power, we're not referring to intimidation, arrogance, or physical dominance. Real power is something far more profound. It is the steady, unwavering presence of someone who knows exactly what they are doing, why they are doing it, and where they are going. It is the force that comes from inner alignment, the kind of power that doesn't need to raise its voice or demand attention because it commands respect by simply existing. That kind of power is magnetic. People naturally want to follow someone who embodies certainty, confidence, and self-control. And in relationships, especially with women, this type of power is what truly gains lasting respect. Purpose is at the core of power. A man who wakes up every day with a mission, a clear sense of why he exists and what he's building, radiates energy that others can feel. He doesn't need constant reassurance. He doesn't need validation from others to feel secure. His direction in life gives him security. And that security becomes the foundation of his masculine presence. When a man is deeply connected to his purpose, he becomes difficult to manipulate. He doesn't chase, he doesn't beg, and he doesn't fold under pressure. That kind of man is rare, and women respect him deeply. They feel safer around him, not because he promises them everything, but because his power is rooted in direction and stability. Control is the second pillar. Not control over others, but control over the self. The man who has mastered his emotions, his impulses, his desires. He is the one who is truly powerful. Anyone can be kind when things are easy, but what happens when chaos hits? What happens when temptation arises? The man who can remain disciplined in those moments holds real control. He is not reactive. He is not emotionally unstable. He doesn't swing between desperation and arrogance. He simply moves forward with intention, adjusting his path as needed, but never losing sight of his values or goals. That kind of internal control builds trust and respect in the eyes of others. Women especially admire this quality because it symbolizes maturity, consistency, and strength. It's easy to confuse power with performance. Flashy clothes, fast cars, loud opinions. None of that is real power. Real power is invisible but felt. It's the quiet strength that doesn't need to explain itself. It's the stillness in the eyes of a man who has already decided who he is and refuses to become anyone else for the sake of fitting in. This power is built, not bought. It's built through sacrifice, discipline, late nights, focused mornings, and a refusal to settle for mediocrity. When you combine purpose and control, you become unshakable. You're no longer chasing temporary satisfaction. You're not concerned with short-term approval. You're on a mission that makes you whole, and that wholeness gives your presence gravity. In that state, women don't just notice you. They respect you. They test you less. They trust your leadership. And more importantly, they feel inspired to grow beside you, not overtake you. In the end, power that comes from purpose and control is the kind of power that doesn't just attract. It transforms. It transforms how others see you, how you see yourself, and what kind of life you build. It is the foundation of all meaningful success in relationships, in business, and in legacy. Power without purpose is dangerous. Power without control is chaos. But power with both is unstoppable. That is the power that earns true respect, quietly, consistently, and permanently. Kindness without boundaries becomes weakness. This is a lesson many people, especially men, learn the hard way. We're often told that being kind is the highest virtue. And in many ways it is. Kindness can heal, it can inspire, and it can open doors. But when kindness is given without limits, without self-respect, and without discipline, it stops being noble and starts being destructive. When you constantly give, bend, and accommodate without asking whether it serves your own well-being or values, you are not being kind. You are being used. And slowly, the very people you're trying to win over begin to lose respect for you. People do not respect kindness that comes from fear. If your kindness is driven by a need to avoid conflict, by the fear of rejection, or by the desire to be liked, then it's not genuine. It's a form of self-sabotage. It signals to others that your worth is negotiable, that your time, your energy, and your dignity can be bought with attention or approval. This is where kindness becomes dangerous. Because instead of drawing people closer, it begins to push them away. They may accept what you offer, but they will not value the person offering it. Boundaries are what give kindness strength. When you can say no with grace, when you can walk away without bitterness, when you can stand your ground without needing to explain yourself, you turn your kindness into a conscious act of power. People sense the difference. They see that you are not acting out of weakness, but from a place of self-worth. And that creates respect. A man who is kind, but knows his limits, becomes someone others admire, not because he is always giving, but because he gives intentionally. He chooses when to give to whom and how much. That kind of discernment earns far more admiration than endless generosity ever could. Women especially notice this. They are naturally attuned to emotional dynamics, to subtle shifts in energy and intent. When a man is kind but spendless, always available, never disagreeing, always apologizing, it creates discomfort rather than connection. Why? Because it feels unnatural. It feels like the man is hiding something, or worse, has nothing of value to protect. But when a man can be kind and still say, "This is my line, you. This is what I will not tolerate," he becomes attractive on a deeper level. He becomes stable, trustworthy, and worthy of respect. It is a mistake to think that being liked is the same as being respected. Many men fall into the trap of overpleasing because they confuse approval with love. But respect always comes first. Without it, love cannot last, and respect is built on boundaries. You do not need to be cruel to earn it, but you do need to be firm. You must protect your time, your mission, your emotions, and your standards. Not everyone deserves your energy, and the moment you realize that, your kindness becomes powerful. Kindness with boundaries is a force. It says, "I care, but I won't be manipulated." It says, "I give, but not at the cost of my own dignity." It says, "I respect others, but I respect myself first." That is the kind of man who moves through the world with quiet confidence. He is calm, generous, and warm, but never a doormat, and because of that, people respect him. Women respect him. Not because he tries to please them, but because he doesn't need to. In the end, it's not about becoming less kind, it's about becoming stronger. Keep your heart open, but protect it with wisdom. Give, but give with intention, and never forget that true kindness must start with yourself. When it does, it stops being weakness and becomes your greatest strength. Women are biologically and psychologically wired to respond to strength. This is not a criticism or a judgment. It's a reality shaped by evolution and survival. For generations, strength has been a symbol of protection, stability, and leadership. These qualities are deeply rooted in what makes a man valuable, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. When a woman encounters a man, she's not only reacting to how he looks or what he says, she's evaluating his energy, his discipline, his decision-making, and his emotional control. Subconsciously, she's asking, can this man lead? Can he protect? Can he stay calm when things fall apart? And the answer to those questions has little to do with how kind he is, and everything to do with how strong he is. In the modern world, we've confused emotional sensitivity with strength. While being aware of your emotions is important, being ruled by them is not. A man who can't control his temper, who breaks down at every challenge, who needs constant reassurance, is not seen as powerful. He's seen as unstable. And instability does not attract respect. Women may sympathize, they may feel sorry, they may even try to support, but they will not respect a man who cannot hold himself together. Respect is not born from weakness, even if that weakness wears the mask of vulnerability. It comes from a man's ability to stand tall when others fall, to stay focused when others panic, and to make decisions when others freeze. Strength does not mean being harsh, cold, or emotionally unavailable. It means knowing who you are and not being swayed by temporary emotions or external chaos. It means having a clear vision and pursuing it relentlessly. It means taking responsibility for your actions, your mindset, and your outcomes. This kind of strength builds trust because it shows consistency. It tells the people around you, especially women, that you are dependable. And that dependability is the bedrock of masculine respect. Women may appreciate charm, enjoy kindness, and be drawn to humor, but they trust strength. And in relationships, trust is everything. A woman wants to know that the man beside her won't fold under pressure, won't lose himself trying to please everyone, and won't abandon his path just to avoid discomfort. She wants to feel that she can lean on him, not because he promises the world, but because he's proven he can carry it. That doesn't come from soft words, it comes from solid action. A man's word must carry weight. His presence must signal that he has mastered his own life. That mastery, that quiet command over self, is what earns deep and lasting respect. Too many men try to impress women with gifts, attention, and constant validation. But these gestures fall flat when they are not backed by strength of character. Without strength, even the most thoughtful actions can seem hollow because they feel driven by need, not confidence. A man who gives out of desperation loses his value quickly. On the other hand, a man who gives from a place of power, who doesn't need to be needed but chooses to contribute, becomes someone truly magnetic. Strength is not optional, it is foundational. If you want respect, especially from women, you must become the man who doesn't need approval to feel whole. You must be the man who can walk alone, who can face failure, who can make tough decisions and live with the consequences. That's the kind of man who stands out. That's the kind of man who draws admiration without asking for it. And that's the kind of man women will respect, not because he demands it, but because he's earned it by mastering himself. The harsh truth is that approval does not equal respect. Many men chase approval thinking it's the key to connection, especially with women. They mold themselves into what they think others want them to be, say what they believe others want to hear, and suppress their true opinions just to be liked. This behavior may get temporary attention, maybe even some affection, but it does not create long-term respect. In fact, the more a man sacrifices his authenticity to gain approval, the more he loses the very thing that makes him attractive, his individuality, his strength, and his purpose. Approval is cheap. Respect is earned. And the two are not the same. When you chase approval, you're putting others in control of your self-worth. You're silently telling the world, I don't believe I'm enough unless you tell me I am. That energy repels more than it attracts. People, especially women, sense that you're dependent on their validation. And no one respects a man who needs permission to feel good about himself. True respect comes when a man defines his own worth, sets his own standards, and lives by his own code. He doesn't need applause. He doesn't seek recognition. He does what's right, what's aligned with his values, whether or not anyone notices. That kind of man walks with a quiet power that commands attention without ever demanding it. Women are incredibly intuitive. They can feel when a man is grounded versus when he's performing. A man who is constantly complimenting, agreeing, apologizing, and doing favors just to be accepted eventually becomes predictable and uninspiring. Not because he's unkind, but because he's needy. And neediness is the enemy of respect. It signals that you don't see yourself as enough, so you overcompensate. But women don't want a man who needs them to feel worthy. They want a man who is already whole, who can share his life, but doesn't require someone else to define it. Respect comes when you're willing to disappoint others in order to stay true to yourself. It comes when you say no, even if it means losing approval. It comes when you take a stand, even if it's unpopular. That's when people begin to see that your value is not based on pleasing them. It's based on purpose, on principles, and on inner strength. And paradoxically, that's what makes them admire you more. Because deep down, everyone wants to follow someone who leads, not someone who begs to be followed. Men who seek respect must stop trading their power for praise. Your worth isn't measured by how many people like you. It's measured by how unshakable you remain when no one agrees with you. Can you still move forward with your mission? Can you still speak your truth? Can you still make decisions based on logic and conviction rather than emotion and approval? That is the test of real strength. And from that strength, respect is born. Approval fades. One moment you have it, the next moment you don't. It's fleeting, unstable, and often shallow. But respect, once earned through consistent action, personal discipline, and unshakable values, lasts. It may take longer to achieve. It may even mean being disliked at times. But it's the foundation of real influence, and ultimately, of real connection. Women respect men who respect themselves. Not just in words, but in action. Be that man, not the one who seeks to be liked, but the one who dares to be respected. Emotional discipline is the cornerstone of masculine power. It is not about suppressing emotion or pretending to be unfeeling, but rather about mastering your emotional responses so that they do not control your behavior. When a man lacks emotional control, he becomes reactive, unstable, and unpredictable, traits that are the opposite of leadership, strength, and security. In contrast, a man who can feel anger without exploding, experience sadness without collapsing, or face fear without retreating demonstrates true inner power. This power is not loud. It doesn't need to shout. It is calm, focused, and immovable in the face of pressure. And this is the kind of energy that earns respect, not only from women, but from the world at large. Women, by their nature, are emotionally intelligent and observant. They don't only listen to what a man says, they watch how he behaves under stress. When things don't go his way, does he blame others? When challenged, does he lash out or crumble? Or does he pause, assess, and respond with purpose? Emotional discipline in a man signals that he is not a slave to his moods, nor to the chaos around him. It communicates that he is dependable, that he will not be easily shaken by life's storms. And in any relationship, this kind of presence is magnetic. It creates a sense of safety, of certainty, of gravity that draws others in. A man who leads himself emotionally can lead others powerfully. But emotional discipline doesn't happen by accident. It requires practice, awareness, and a relentless commitment to self-control. It's forged in discomfort. When you want to scream but choose to breathe instead, when you want to act impulsively but choose to pause. Every time you resist the urge to react emotionally, you build your inner fortress. And with each repetition, your self-respect deepens. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to command your environment instead of being tossed around by it. That trust in yourself is the very foundation on which others will begin to trust and respect you as well. The world often celebrates emotional expression while ignoring the value of emotional regulation. But true leaders, true men of influence, do not spill their emotions everywhere. They harness them, channel them, and use them to fuel their vision. Anger becomes focused action. Sadness becomes reflection. Fear becomes courage. This is the alchemy of masculine energy. It is not cold, but it is controlled. And in that control lies tremendous strength. When a woman sees that a man is not reactive to every little challenge or emotional wave, she sees a man who can be relied upon. Someone who doesn't fall apart when things get hard. Someone who doesn't lose himself trying to manage others' opinions. She sees a man who walks forward with intention, no matter what emotional storm surrounds him. That kind of man earns a deeper level of trust and admiration because he offers something rare in today's world: stability. To be respected, especially by women who value strength and vision, you must become emotionally sovereign. Your emotions are yours to feel, but not yours to worship. Let them inform you, but never rule you. Let them teach you, but never derail you. The man who can master his emotions is the man who can master his world. And that mastery, silent, steady, and unwavering, is the purest form of power there is.